Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Ujjwal Whatifs and I am back with a new series. It's a part 9 of What If I Got Reincarnated as Naruto. I the Ujjwal Whatifs, I'm the writer and editor of this series, but I do not own any of its character. Now before we start, let's reveal the answer to my last question. There were a total of 9 Saiyans who survived planet Vegeta's destruction. First was Goku, then in Saiyan arc we meet Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta. Later in the Super we were introduced to Tarbell, the little brother of Vegeta. Then in the Broly movie, we found out about Vegeta's 2 unknown team members in the flashback, and the new OG Broly and Paragus, with one more Saiyan who was killed by Paragus. But since that guy died before the planet Vegeta's destruction, so he won't be counted. Only one person answered it correctly, the @KTR Mobile's U1Y, a loud shout out for him. Also, thank you guys for always participating in my quizzes. Now, let's begin. The morning after Sasuke's departure, I was summoned to the Hokage Tower. Honestly, never a good sign. In my experience, getting called to the Hokage's office usually meant one of 3 things. A mission, paperwork, or someone did something incredibly stupid. Considering this was Konoha, the third option was usually the safest bet. When I entered Tsunade's office, I immediately noticed something was wrong. Tsunade looked irritated. Shizune looked worried. Taunton was asleep on a stack of reports. Honestly, the pig had the right idea. Shizune was the first to speak. Naruto. Her tone was unusually serious. Sasuke Uchiha defected from the village last night. I widened my eyes. What? Internally, not surprised in the slightest. Externally, Oscar-worthy performance. Honestly, I deserved an award. Tsunade leaned back in her chair. The Sound 4 infiltrated the village and helped him escape. I nodded slowly while pretending to process the information. Meanwhile, internally, I already knew exactly what happened. The curse mark, Itachi, revenge, Orochimaru, the perfect storm. Sasuke never truly escaped his darkness. The Sound 4 simply gave it direction. Then Tsunade continued. Normally, I'd send a Jonin retrieval squad. She sighed. Unfortunately, most of our available forces are already deployed. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. The aftermath of Orochimaru's invasion was still affecting Konoha heavily. Border security, diplomatic stabilization, reconstruction, counterintelligence operations. The village was stretched thin. Then Tsunade looked directly at me. Naruto, I already knew what was coming. I want you to lead the retrieval mission. Interesting. In canon, this role went to Shikamaru. This time, me. Honestly, not the worst promotion. Then Tsunade surprised me further. You'll assemble your own team. Now that was useful, very useful. I immediately started thinking, not about retrieving Sasuke, because honestly, I wasn't worried about Sasuke. Believe it or not, leaving Konoha was important for his growth. The village really was holding him back. Not intentionally. Well, mostly not intentionally. The elders always feared creating another Itachi. Thankfully Itachi was hardcore loyal fanatic. But others may not be, and that what feared the elders. The instructors treated him carefully. Everyone expected him to become the village's strongest future shinobi, but never helped him enough. That pressure alone slowed his development. Meanwhile Orochimaru would throw him into life or death situations daily. As much as I hated admitting it, the snake bastard produced results. Still, I couldn't exactly tell Tsunade. Don't worry, Bachan. Sasuke needs character development. That conversation wouldn't end well. So instead, I focused on another objective. The Sound 4, and Kimimaro. Because unlike Sasuke, those psychopaths needed to die. For my peace of mind. For Konoha's future. For literally everyone. So I immediately formed my team. Shikamaru. Brains. Strategy. Emergency planning. The guy's IQ practically counted as a bloodline limit. Then Team 8. Hinata. Kiba. Shino. The perfect tracking unit. Honestly, the Sound 4 could run across oceans and Kiba would still somehow smell them. And finally, Choji. Because every squad needed muscle. And Choji was rapidly becoming terrifying. No Ino. This mission wasn't suited for her skill set. No Sakura. Not because she was weak. Far from it, but emotionally. Sasuke's defection hit her harder than anyone. Bringing her would be asking for trouble. Tsunade surprisingly didn't argue, probably because the logic made sense. Or because she trusted me. Honestly, still weird. An hour later, we departed. The mission officially began. As we moved through the forest, Kiba led the tracking effort while Akamaru assisted. Shino quietly verified trails. Hinata occasionally used her Byakugan. Meanwhile Shikamaru spent most of the journey looking deeply inconvenienced by existence. Honestly, peak Shikamaru behavior. The pursuit continued for hours. And truthfully, I could have moved much faster. A lot faster. But leaving my team behind wasn't an option. So I matched their pace. Because unlike anime protagonists, I actually like teamwork. Eventually, we found them. The Sound 4, or more accurately, what remained of them. And immediately I noticed something. The coffin. Gone. My eyes narrowed. Sasuke had already completed the second stage transformation process. Which meant one thing. He was already heading toward the Valley of the End. Toward the border. Toward Orochimaru. The clock was ticking. Then the Sound 4 noticed us. And honestly, they looked exactly as punchable as I remembered. Without wasting time, I immediately created 6 shadow clones. Boom, boom, boom. The forest filled with smoke. 3 clones rushed Jirobo. 3 rushed Kitamura. The giant earth brute and the spider freak barely had time to react. Meanwhile the others engaged. Chiyuya, Saken and Uken. The battles erupted simultaneously. Shikamaru and Choji coordinated against Chiyuya. Team 8 immediately intercepted the twin brothers. And honestly, they performed far better than canon. Months of extra missions and combat experience had sharpened all of them. Still, I wasn't taking chances. This wasn't anime anymore. I knew the future. But the future was already changing. And that meant unforeseen problems could appear at any moment. So while everyone fought, I moved. Fast. Very fast. Jirobo died first. 1 flying thunder god faint. 1 Rasengan. Fight over. Honestly, the poor guy barely understood what happened. Then came Kitamura. The spider ninja attempted range. Traps. Webs. Summoning. Unfortunately for him, flying thunder god existed. 30 seconds later, he joined his teammate in the afterlife. Honestly, fastest boss fights of my life. Afterward, I glanced at my team holding their own against their opponent, but still secretly left several shadow clones hidden nearby. It was for the insurance. If anything went wrong, they would intervene immediately. Because while I wanted my teammates to grow through battle, I wasn't stupid enough to gamble their lives for character development. That was an anime protagonist mistake. Not mine. Satisfied they weren't in immediate danger, I turned toward the distant horizon. The Valley of the End. Sasuke was waiting. And whether I liked it or not, the most important fight of his life was about to begin. The battle to prove he had gotten stronger than me. And I am not planning to ruin this classic event. Also, I myself like to see how much stronger his second-level cursed mark of heaven actually was. After leaving shadow clones behind to monitor my teammates' battles, I continued forward alone. And honestly, I didn't have to travel far. Because standing directly in my path was a pale teenager with white hair, green eyes, and enough loyalty issues to make Haku look rebellious. Kimimaro, the last survivor of the Kagaya clan. Orochimaru's most devoted follower, and one of the strongest people in the entire Sound Village. Honestly, the guy deserved better. Unfortunately for him, he chose Orochimaru, and I wasn't in a forgiving mood today. Kimimaro calmly stepped forward. You will not interfere with Lord Orochimaru's vessel. I sighed. Can we skip the cult speeches? His expression didn't change. Honestly, I wasn't sure he knew how. Then the fight began, and immediately, I realized something. The guy was stronger than I expected. Much stronger. Even knowing the future didn't fully prepare me for fighting a living bone weapon. Every strike was deadly. Every movement efficient. Every attack aimed to kill. Bone swords. Bone bullets. Bone armor. The battlefield quickly turned into a nightmare of white spikes and shattered earth. Meanwhile Kimimaro fought with absolute conviction. No hesitation. No fear. Only devotion. Honestly, the guy needed therapy almost as badly as Gaara did. The fight continued longer than I expected. Not because I was losing, but because Kimimaro simply refused to stay down. Several times I thought the battle was over. Several times he stood back up, driven entirely by sheer willpower. And honestly, that alone earned some respect. Then his illness started catching up. His breathing became heavier. His movements slowed. Blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. The disease eating him alive finally began winning. And once that happened, the battle became one-sided. Then came his strongest attack. The dance of the seedling fern. Boom! A gigantic forest of bones erupted from the earth. Massive white spikes covered the entire battlefield. Honestly, the first time I saw that jutsu in anime, it looked terrifying. Seeing it in person, even worse. For a moment, the entire landscape transformed into a sea of death. Unfortunately for Kimimaro, he forgot who he was fighting. Flying Thunder God, the ultimate mobility technique. The moment the bone forest appeared, I vanished. FWOOOSH. Then reappeared behind him. Then above him. Then beside him. And finally, directly in front of him. The poor guy looked genuinely confused. Honestly, same reaction everyone had. Then I grabbed him, and threw him directly into his own bone forest. Crash! Several bone spikes pierced through his already dying body. The battlefield became silent. Kimimaro coughed blood heavily. Still, even then, he tried standing again. Honestly, the loyalty was admirable. The target of that loyalty wasn't. Slowly, I pulled out a black blade from my seal pouch. A chakra-conducting blade, one of the weapons my mother had left behind among her belongings. Its edge gleamed softly beneath the evening light. Kimimaro looked toward me quietly. Then toward the sky. Lord Orochimaru. His final words. His final thought. Then, shink. The blade pierced his heart cleanly. Silence. The battle ended. For a moment, I stood there quietly. Because honestly, Kimimaro was one of the greatest wastes of potential in the shinobi world. Then reality returned, and immediately I burned the body. Completely. No remains. No samples. No blood. Nothing. Because the last thing I wanted was Danzo getting his hands on a Kagaya corpse. Honestly, the old bastard would probably try growing an entire army. No thank you. Once the body turned to ash, I continued forward. The valley of the end awaited. A short while later, I arrived. The massive statues stood proudly over the waterfall. Hashirama, Madara, founders of Konoha, and standing atop Madara's head, was Sasuke. Dark chakra leaked from his body continuously. His second stage curse mark transformation was active. Gray skin, dark markings, monstrous power. Honestly, he looked like a goth bat had a child with bad decisions. Sasuke stared at me silently. I stared back. The waterfall roared beneath us. The wind howled. The dramatic atmosphere practically screamed anime final battle. Then Sasuke spoke. The village was holding me back. Ah, there it was. The speech. Everyone was growing except me. His voice carried frustration. You, Sakura, Lee, everyone. His fists tightened. Even the Sharingan was something I unlocked myself. Technically it was true. The village gave me nothing. He looked toward the horizon. But Orochimaru, he can make me stronger. His expression darkened. Strong enough to kill Itachi. Silence followed. Meanwhile internally, I completely agreed. Well, mostly. Honestly, Konoha really had been holding him back. Not intentionally. But it happened. It happened because of the fear of creating another Itachi. While Orochimaru, the snake was many things. Evil, creepy, questionably obsessed with children, but ineffective wasn't one of them. Still, I obviously couldn't say any of that. So instead I crossed my arms. Meanwhile internally, my thoughts were completely different. Bro, I know literally all of that. I'm not even here to stop you. I'm here because killing the Sound 4 and Kimimaro helps me sleep better at night. Also just wanted to enjoy this fight. Besides, after seeing my growth, Orochimaru definitely doesn't want to lose his perfect vessel right. The guy was probably hiding somewhere watching us right now. Like a creepy snake documentary narrator does. Then the battle began. And honestly, it was fun. Sasuke had become strong. Very strong. Second stage curse mark Sasuke was approaching Jonin level. His speed, his strength, his Sharingan, everything had improved dramatically. Unfortunately for him, I was also Jonin level. Even without Kurama's chakra, months of shadow clone training, Flying Thunder God, Fuinjutsu, and Jiraya's teachings created a monster. The battle lasted several minutes. Fire release, lightning release, taijutsu, shadow clones, chidori, Rasengan. The entire valley shook beneath our clash. And eventually, I won. Not easily, but clearly. Sasuke collapsed heavily against the stone. Exhausted, utterly defeated, both physically and mentally. Then suddenly, danger. My instincts screamed. Whoosh. Flying Thunder God activated instantly. I vanished. A moment later, 2 attacks struck where I had been standing. Kabuto. And beside him, a woman with long brown hair. It was Gurren, the crystal release user. Interesting. That was definitely new. Gurren looked me up and down. Then snorted. That's the famous son of the 4th Hokage. Her expression looked unimpressed. You don't look very strong. Honestly, villains really needed better opening lines. She was already preparing another attack when. That's enough. A familiar voice interrupted. Everyone turned. Gaara. And beside him, Rock Lee, the green beast himself, already had opened the 3rd gate, the gate of life. Honestly, the timing was suspiciously heroic. Gaara folded his arms and looked at me. The others are helping your teammates. Lee immediately pointed dramatically. We shall not allow unfair numbers. Youth truly was a disease. The battlefield became tense once more. Everyone prepared to fight. Then, a hand emerged from the ground. And I immediately sighed. Because of course, how many more people were joining this chapter? The earth split open. Orochimaru emerged, still suffering from sealed arms. Still creepy, still smiling. The snake Sannin glanced toward me. You've grown. Honestly, not the compliment I wanted. Then his smile widened. Join me. Silence. Everyone froze. Even Kabuto looked surprised. Meanwhile I blinked, then pointed toward myself. Me. Orochimaru nodded. I immediately shook my head. Nah. The smile remained. I already have Tsunade Bachin. Silence. I don't need another mother figure. The smile twitched. And definitely not one as creepy or pedophile as you. Orochimaru's eye twitched visibly. Behind him, Kabuto looked offended. Gurren looked murderous. Meanwhile Gaara actually smiled. Rock Lee outright laughed. Then, the killing intent hit. The entire valley froze. Even Lee paled instantly. Because for all the jokes, Orochimaru was still Orochimaru. One of the legendary Sannin. A monster. Injured one. But still a monster. As mouthy as ever. Then he attacked all 3 of us. With that, the battle had began. Meanwhile behind him, Kabuto threw Sasuke over his shoulder and began retreating. The Sound Village's future moved away, while Gurren stood on standby. And for the first time since arriving in this world, I was about to fight Orochimaru without anyone holding back. The moment Orochimaru attacked, I stopped joking. The air itself seemed to grow heavier. This wasn't Kabuto. This wasn't Kimimaro. This wasn't one of Orochimaru's followers. This was Orochimaru himself, one of the legendary Sannin. A monster who had survived multiple wars, fought Kage, experimented on half the shinobi world, and somehow kept getting away with it. Honestly, the man was like a cockroach with a PhD. The moment he moved, I immediately reached toward the familiar presence inside my seal. Kurama, or more accurately, the world's grumpiest oversized fox. A stream of crimson chakra poured through the cage. Not much, only a single tail's worth. The maximum amount I could safely control at the moment. The fox still refused to talk. Honestly, he had been living in my stomach since I was born. While I just started asking for rent. And somehow, this furball still acted like an angry landlord. Rude. Just then I heard a snorting sound in my mind. It was Kurama. Then the crimson chakra wrapped around my body instantly. My senses sharpened. My strength exploded upward. My healing accelerated. And just in time, boom, I blocked Orochimaru's strike head-on. The ground beneath my feet shattered. Shockwaves blasted across the valley. Gaara and Lee immediately moved forward. I raised my hand. Stay back. Both froze. This one's mine. Gaara frowned. Lee looked horrified. Naruto-kun. I pointed toward Kabuto, who was currently carrying unconscious Sasuke away. Go after him. Then toward Gurren. Or deal with Crystal Girl. Choice is yours. Honestly, that nickname would never stop being funny. Neither wanted to leave, especially Gaara. The case cage candidate had already lost one important fight because he wasn't strong enough. He clearly didn't want to repeat that feeling. But eventually, both saw the determination in my eyes, and nodded, then immediately rushed toward Kabuto, since retrieving Sasuke was the priority. But unfortunately, Gurren stepped forward, crystal chakra exploded outward, crack, gigantic crystal formations erupted from the earth, blocking their path completely, and just like that, a second battlefield formed. Meanwhile, my own fight became increasingly ridiculous. Even with sealed arms, Orochimaru remained terrifying. The guy couldn't perform ninjutsu, couldn't summon Manda, couldn't weave hand signs, and somehow, he was still a nightmare. His taijutsu was flawless, his reactions monstrous, his battle experience absurd. Then there was the Kusanagi blade. Honestly, the first time I watched Orochimaru fight using a sword from his mouth in anime, it looked stupid. Seeing it in person, it somehow looked even dumber. Someone tell me, why is this reminding me of Zoro? That guy looked cool doing that, while he looked nothing more than a creepy child lover. And somehow still infinitely more dangerous. The sword shot from his mouth like a spear, curved unexpectedly, changed angles, attacked from blind spots, and combined with Orochimaru's flexibility. It was horrifying. The guy literally fought like a human snake, which admittedly made sense. Still creepy though, very creepy. Several times the blade nearly pierced me. Several times Flying Thunder God saved my life. Whoosh, teleport, dodge, counter, repeat. The valley echoed with explosions. Rasengan clashed against stone. Shadow clones attacked from impossible angles. Marked kunai covered the battlefield. And slowly, very slowly, the balance began shifting. Not because I was stronger. Not yet, but because Orochimaru was weakened. The sealed arms, the previous battle, the body deterioration, everything was catching up. Then, boom, a Rasengan slammed directly into his chest. The snake Sannin crashed through several cliffs. Honestly, that felt amazing. Meanwhile elsewhere, Gaara and Lee were having problems of their own. Gurren was stronger than expected. Much stronger. Crystal release was no joke. Every attack created weapons, barriers, spikes, projectiles, entire crystal forests. The battlefield looked like someone had turned nature into a giant chandelier. Even Gaara struggled, and that's saying something. Still, the two worked surprisingly well together. Gaara controlled the battlefield. Lee controlled the pace. One was defense, one was offense, one was strategy, one was pure violence. Honestly, they were weirdly effective. Eventually Lee opened the fourth gate. The gate of pain. Green chakra exploded around him. The ground shattered beneath his feet. His speed skyrocketed. Meanwhile Gaara stopped holding back completely. His sand became a living tsunami. And finally, crash. Gurren went down, unconscious, defeated. Unfortunately, too late. Kabuto had already crossed the border carrying Sasuke. The mission had officially failed. At least on paper. Back at the Valley of the End. Things got even crazier. Because another chakra signature arrived. A familiar one. A silver-haired Jonin landed beside me. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi glanced toward Orochimaru. Then toward me. Then back toward Orochimaru. You always find trouble. Honestly, fair criticism. Without another word, he joined the battle, and immediately the pressure on me lessened. Because unlike most shinobi, Kakashi could actually keep up. The next several minutes were brutal. Flying Thunder God, Sharingan, Lightning Release, Shadow Clones, Rasengan. Orochimaru found himself pressured from multiple directions simultaneously. For the first time since the battle started, the snake Sannin looked genuinely irritated. Honestly, that alone made the entire mission worth it. Soon afterward, Lee and Gaara arrived. Both exhausted, both battered, both ready to jump into the fight. I immediately stopped them. Don't. Lee blinked. But, no. I pointed toward both of them. You two are exhausted. Then toward Orochimaru. Against him, you'd be liabilities. Painful, but true. The two reluctantly backed off. Meanwhile me and Kakashi continued. And eventually, We won. At least, that's what I thought. Orochimaru lay motionless, his body broken, damaged, defeated. Then suddenly, crack, his skin split open. Silence. Everyone froze. And then, a new Orochimaru crawled out from the old one's mouth. Honestly, gross. Absolutely disgusting. I had seen it countless times on my phone screen. I knew it was coming. And it was still one of the most revolting things I had ever witnessed. Even Gaara looked disturbed. Lee looked traumatized. Kakashi physically stepped backward. The new Orochimaru stretched his neck casually, though his hands were still ruined. As if shedding bodies was completely normal behavior, but it still has no effect on his sealed hand. Honestly, the man needed therapy. Then I remembered, that technique consumed enormous amounts of chakra, especially with sealed arms, which meant he was vulnerable. For a brief moment, I genuinely considered killing him. Not because it would permanently solve the problem. I knew it wouldn't. The snake had too many backup plans. Too many laboratories. Too many cursed seals. Too many hidden bases. But honestly, it would still be funny. Unfortunately, life had other plans. Because suddenly, crystal release. A gigantic crystal wall erupted between us. Gurren, the woman somehow managed to stand back up. Barely conscious. Barely standing. And still loyal enough to save Orochimaru. Honestly, the guy collected emotionally damaged followers like Pokemon cards. The crystal barrier blocked our pursuit for just a few precious seconds. And that was enough. Because Orochimaru immediately capitalized on it. The snake Sannin looked toward me one last time. His golden eyes narrowed slightly. Then he smiled, and disappeared, running away. Again, honestly, for someone who called himself a legendary shinobi, Orochimaru spent an awful lot of time fleeing. The battlefield finally fell silent. The only remaining enemy was Gurren. And unlike Orochimaru, she wasn't escaping. Kakashi quickly subdued her, then applied a chakra suppression seal. One of the advanced restraint seals used by Anbu. The crystal user collapsed shortly afterward. Unconscious. Captured. As Kakashi hoisted her over his shoulder, he glanced toward me. The mission. I looked toward the distant border. Toward where Sasuke had disappeared. Then shrugged. Depends. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. On. I sighed dramatically. Whether Tsunade Bachan considers killing 4 sound ninja, Kimimaro, capturing a crystal release user, and beating up Orochimaru enough compensation for losing one emotionally unstable Uchiha. For a moment, silence. Then even Kakashi laughed. And honestly, that answer was probably going into my mission report. The journey back to Konoha was surprisingly peaceful. Well, as peaceful as traveling with Kakashi, Gaara, Rock Lee, and an unconscious enemy prisoner could be. Honestly, the group looked ridiculous. Kakashi walked lazily with Gurren slung over one shoulder like a sack of potatoes. The crystal user was still unconscious thanks to suppression seals and Kakashi's own restraints. Rock Lee looked exhausted but somehow still energetic. I genuinely suspected youth was a medical condition now. Meanwhile Gaara remained unusually quiet. Though compared to the murderous psychopath he used to be, this counted as massive progress. At one point Lee tried starting a conversation. Gaara, what are your future plans? Gaara looked at him, then looked away, then after a full minute answered. Protect Sunagaker. Lee immediately started crying. I'm so proud of your youth. Honestly, the guy was impossible. Even Gaara looked uncomfortable. A few days earlier, while me, Kakashi, Gaara, and Lee were dealing with Orochimaru, the others had also completed their battles. And honestly, I was impressed. My hidden shadow clones had intervened only when absolutely necessary. Mostly to prevent unforeseen disasters. The actual victories belonged to them. Shikamaru and Choji defeated Tayuya. Team 8 defeated Saken and Uken. Not easily, not cleanly, but they won. And afterward, the remaining members of Team 9 alongside Tamari and Konkuro helped everyone return safely to Konoha. Honestly, the mission could have ended far worse. Much worse. Then again, Sasuke still escaped, so, better than it could have been, wasn't exactly comforting. The moment we arrived at Konoha's gates, the guards immediately recognized us. Mostly because Kakashi was carrying a crystal woman over his shoulder. That tended to attract attention. News spread quickly. Again. Honestly, Konoha villagers had better intelligence networks than most shinobi villages. By the time we reached the Hokage Tower, people already knew something major had happened. Inside the office, Tsunade waited. Shizune stood beside her. Several Anbu remained hidden around the room. And Taunton was asleep on a stack of paperwork. The pig continued living his best life. Then the mission report began. Kakashi explained everything professionally. I explained everything dramatically. Naturally. The moment I mentioned fighting Orochimaru, Tsunade pinched the bridge of her nose. The moment I mentioned Kimimaro, several Anbu exchanged looks. And the moment I mentioned Orochimaru shedding his skin again, the entire room collectively looked disturbed. Honestly, fair reaction. Even now I wanted bleach for my eyes. After the report ended, Tsunade remained silent for several moments. Then finally she looked toward me. You killed Jirobo and Kitamura. I nodded. And Kimimaro. Another nod. You also forced Orochimaru to retreat. Technically true. Though Kakashi helped a lot. Then Tsunade's lips curled slightly upward. Good work. Honestly, getting praised by Tsunade felt strangely rewarding. Probably because she usually expressed affection through physical violence. Then she praised the others too. Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata, Kiba, Shino. Everyone received recognition for their contributions. And honestly, they deserved it. The rookies had grown tremendously. Far beyond their canon selves at this point. Then Tsunade sighed. And just like that, the mood shifted. The mission is still classified as a failure. Silence filled the office. Nobody argued. Nobody complained. Because deep down, we all knew. The objective wasn't defeating the Sound 4. The objective wasn't killing Kimimaro. The objective wasn't capturing Gurren. The objective was retrieving Sasuke. And Sasuke escaped. Simple, painful, but true. Still, we got paid. Honestly, money softened disappointment considerably. Later that evening, I found myself sitting atop the Hokage monument. More specifically, on my father's head. Honestly, still one of the best views in Konoha. The village stretched beneath me. Thousands of lights illuminated the streets. People laughed, talked, lived their lives, completely unaware of how many disasters had been prevented recently. I leaned back against the stone. The wind brushed softly against my face. And for the first time in days, everything became quiet. My thoughts naturally drifted toward Sasuke. Right now he was probably heading toward Orochimaru's hideout. And if I did the right thing by letting Sasuke leave, toward to power, toward revenge, toward the future, would he become the same Sasuke as canon? Honestly, I wasn't sure anymore. Too much had changed. He had unlocked his Sharingan differently. His curse mark had been sealed for months. He received better training, more missions, more combat experience, and unlike canon, he already knew exactly how wide the gap between himself and true monsters was. Because he fought me, and lost, again, would that make him stronger? Or simply more desperate? I genuinely didn't know. Then my thoughts drifted elsewhere. Toward myself. Toward the future. Toward everything I knew was coming. Akatsuki. Pain. Obito. Madara. The fourth great ninja war. Kagaya. Enough world-ending threats to give anyone a headache. In canon, Naruto faced all of that through stubbornness, determination, and absurd luck. I had something different. Knowledge. Preparation. Time. But even then, nothing was guaranteed anymore. The future was changing. Gaara changed. Haku lived. Hayate survived. Gurren was captured. Orochimaru was weaker. Sasuke's path was already different. Every change created new possibilities. And new dangers. Honestly, that uncertainty scared me a little. For the first time since arriving in this world, I couldn't fully predict what would happen next. The story was no longer following the script. And maybe, that wasn't entirely a bad thing. I looked up toward the night sky. Somewhere out there, Akatsuki was moving. Somewhere out there, Orochimaru was plotting. Somewhere out there, Sasuke was chasing power. And me, I still had a lot of growing to do. A smile slowly appeared on my face. Then I stood up atop my father's stone head. The wind blew through my hair. The village glowed beneath me. And for the first time in a while, I felt excited. After all, the future wasn't written yet. And I intended to make full use of that. Sometime later, still sitting atop the fourth Hokage's stone head, I continued staring at the night sky. When suddenly another memory surfaced. A recent one. One from only a few days ago. The Land of Tea mission. Honestly, with everything that happened recently, I almost forgot about narrating that mission. Just one day before Sasuke defected, Team 7 had completed a mission in the Land of Tea. A ceremonial race. An escort mission. Simple, at least, it was supposed to be. Instead, we ended up escorting Idate Morino, Ibiki's younger brother, during the race while dealing with a rogue shinobi named Aoi Rokusho. And honestly, the guy had the personality of wet cardboard. What made him dangerous wasn't his personality. It was his weapon, the Sword of the Thunder God. The treasured blade once wielded by the second Hokage himself. Now that got my attention. The battle ended exactly how most battles involving me ended these days. Violently. Aoi underestimated me. I broke his confidence. Then I broke him. The sword returned to Konoha afterward. And honestly, Tsunade nearly cried when she saw a priceless historical artifact being returned instead of stolen for once. Apparently that was a rare occurrence. Flashback end. I smiled and simply fell asleep at the monument. Some days later, life became strangely busy. Not with world-ending threats. Not with Akatsuki. Not with Orochimaru. Just missions. Lots of simple missions. Honestly, it felt like the universe was throwing filler arcs at me. Then again, it was truly the filler arcs in the anime. Some of those missions ended up changing more than I expected. Especially one. The Baikochu search mission. A rare beetle Aburame clan wanted, so they commissioned a mission. This beetle also helps in tracking, so Tsunade approved it. Now technically speaking, the mission was beneath my pay grade. Because, at this point I was operating as the Tokubetsu Jonin and already was a full-fledged Jonin level shinobi. Maybe higher depending on how much Kurama chakra I used. So helping Team 8 search for a rare tracking beetle made absolutely no sense. Naturally, I volunteered, for completely professional reasons. Absolutely nothing to do with a certain Shai Hyuga. Nothing at all. The mission itself was straightforward. Search, track, protect, avoid giant insects. The usual. What mattered wasn't the mission itself. It was the journey. Because for the first time, I spent several days almost exclusively with Team 8. And more specifically, with Hinata. Away from the village. Away from clan expectations. Away from distractions. Just talking, training, traveling, living. Little by little, conversations became easier. The awkward silences became shorter. The fainting became less frequent. Honestly, progress. Slow progress. But progress. Then I help in capturing the giant beetle, by defeating the enemies, the Kamizuru clan members, the mortal enemies of Aburame's. They were also there for that same beetle. Too bad they encountered me. I quickly defeated them, and took them back to Konoha for interrogation with Team 8. Then came Team 10's mission. The one involving Raiga, one of the former 7 ninja swordsmen. And he was the only reason I joined this mission. I wanted that sword, and honestly, the guy was completely insane. Lightning, storms, dramatic speeches, the works. His fight against us nearly turned an entire mountainside into a disaster zone. Fortunately, people kept forgetting one important thing. Flying Thunder God was broken. Raiga eventually learned this too. Right before I introduced a Rasengan to his face. The mission ended. The village survived. And I acquired another famous swords. Honestly, collecting legendary weapons was becoming a weird hobby. Then there was Anko's mission. And honestly, that one got weird. Even by ninja standards. We were sent to investigate reports of a sea monster terrorizing nearby settlements. Simple, reasonable, normal. Then we discovered the sea monster was actually a girl. One of Orochimaru's failed experiments. Because of course she was. Apparently the snake Sanin woke up every morning and asked himself, how can I violate ethics today? I mean, that girl could literally transform parts of her body into a living trident. Honestly, not the strangest thing I'd seen. Not even top 10. After helping Anko resolve the situation, we brought her back to Konoha. Tsunade personally arranged housing and rehabilitation. Which honestly reminded me why Tsunade was such a good Hokage. For all her flaws, she genuinely cared about people. Especially broken ones. Then came the Star Village mission. And honestly, that entire place was a lawsuit waiting to happen. Everyone there worshipped a mysterious meteorite. A meteorite that granted power, increased chakra, enhanced abilities, basically ninja steroids. The problem, it was slowly killing them. A fact I already knew. The village elders didn't appreciate hearing that. Naturally, people rarely enjoy being told their sacred treasure is radioactive death time bomb. Eventually the truth surfaced. The strongest users began suffering, dying, breaking down, and finally everyone saw reality. By then it was already too late for some, including the village leader. His obsession with power killed him. Literally. Afterward the survivors made the correct choice. The meteorite was sealed away, buried so deep underground that nobody would accidentally discover it again. Honestly, one future disaster prevented. Then came Yakumo Kurama, and honestly, that mission hit differently. Kurenai's former student, a genius, a victim, a lonely girl crushed beneath expectations and tragedy. By the time we found her, she had already lost herself. Her powers blurred reality itself. Genjutsu capable of affecting the physical world. Terrifying, unique, and deeply tragic, and I was curious if the illusions could make me feel like the Spider-Man. What? I am a big Spider-Man fan, okay. Then the battle itself wasn't the important part. The conversation afterward was. So after a big ball Rasengan with Kurama-infused chakra broke her insanely deadly illusions. The fighting stopped. I simply sat beside her. And talked. Not as a shinobi. Not as a hero. Just as someone who understood loneliness. Who understood isolation. Who understood what happened when people stopped believing they deserved happiness. We talked for hours. About family. About expectations. About pain. About Kurenai. Most importantly, about how much Kurenai actually cared. How much she always cared. Even when Yakumo couldn't see it. The misunderstandings cleared. Eventually the tears came. Then acceptance. Then reconciliation. By the end of the mission, teacher and student finally found each other again. And honestly, that felt better than winning any fight. Looking back now, those months felt strangely peaceful. No Akatsuki. No Orochimaru invasions. No world-ending threats. Just missions. Friends. Training. Growth. Small adventures. Small victories. The kind of moments most stories skip. But maybe those moments mattered the most. Because while everyone else saw random missions, I saw something else. Shikamaru becoming more confident. Choji becoming stronger. Gaara becoming a better person. Hinata becoming braver. The rookies growing. The village healing. Life moving forward. And maybe, just maybe, those quiet days were worth protecting. Because deep down, I knew something they didn't. The storm was coming. Akatsuki was moving. The world was changing. And eventually, peace would end. But until then, I intended to enjoy every single day I had left before my 3 years training arc with Jiraiya begins. Life continued peacefully for several months after the Sasuke Retrieval Mission. Well, as peaceful as life could be when one of your teammates defected to a snake-themed child kidnapper. Honestly, my standards for peace had become concerningly low. The village slowly recovered. The rookie generation grew stronger. Tsunade buried herself under enough paperwork to qualify as a natural disaster. And I continued training. Then one day, everything changed. Again. It started when Jiraiya returned from one of his information-gathering trips. Which was a polite way of saying he had spent several months wandering around the continent, spying on suspicious people, gathering intelligence, and occasionally getting thrown out of women's bathhouses. The man truly lived an inspiring life. Unfortunately, this time he brought serious news. Very serious news. The kind that immediately got him a private meeting with Tsunade, the village elders, several Anbu commanders, and surprisingly, me. I was present because this meeting concerned me. And now unlike canon I was not a naive genin. So Tsunade asked for my presence for this. Honestly, the moment I saw Homura and Kaharu sitting in the same room willingly, I knew something was wrong. Those two agreed on almost nothing. Jiraiya stood before everyone with an unusually serious expression. No joking. No theatrics. No nonsense. That alone scared me. Then he began explaining. First he explained what the Akatsuki organization was and what their purpose was to the elders. How all their members were S-rank rogue nins, Itachi included. And their main purpose of collecting all the Biju by extracting them from their Jinchurikis. Everyone in the office looked shocked, except me and Tsunade who knew about them. Me because I knew the canon. Tsunade Bachan, because Jiraiya had told her about them when she first took the seat. Then my eyes shined in understanding, and I realized what this meeting was for. My 3 years training arc is going to begin. Then Jiraiya told the main reason for this meeting. The Akatsuki have temporarily halted their Biju hunting operations. Silence filled the room. Even Danzo leaned closer. Tsunade frowned. Why? Jiraiya folded his arms. The 3 tails. Immediately I understood. Yagura, the 4th Mizukage, the 3 tails Jinchuriki, dead. Jiraiya continued. During the civil conflicts in Kurigakure, Yagura died. The room grew quieter. With him died Isobu, the 3 tails, one of the 9 Biju. One of the creatures Akatsuki wanted. And unfortunately, dead Biju didn't stay dead. They reformed naturally, eventually. But it took time. Years. The 3 tails will require approximately 3 years to reform completely. Understanding slowly appeared on Tsunade's face. Then on the elders. Then on everyone else's. Akatsuki needed all 9 Biju. Missing even one ruined the entire plan. Which meant, everything stopped. For now. 3 years. 3 years before Akatsuki could begin collecting Biju again. 3 years before the world started moving toward disaster. 3 years of preparation. Honestly, best news I'd heard all year. Unfortunately, Jiraiya wasn't finished. The problem is Naruto. And immediately every eye turned toward me. Honestly, being the center of attention never got less awkward. Jiraiya pointed directly at me. He's strong. I nodded proudly. Tsunade rolled her eyes. But not strong enough. And there it was. The problem. Because despite all my growth, Jiraiya wasn't wrong. I could defeat Jonin. Fight Orochimaru briefly. Use Flying Thunder God. Control one tail of Kurama's chakra. But against a pair of S-rank missing nin. Not happening. Not yet. Itachi and Kisame already proved that. Pain. Konan. Sasori. Deidara. The list only got worse. Jiraiya sighed. 3 years. His voice became firm. 3 years is enough time to prepare him properly. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. What are you proposing? Then Jiraiya smiled. I'm taking him with me. Silence. Then chaos. The elders immediately exploded. Absolutely not. He's the 9 tails Jinchuriki. Removing him from the village is reckless. The village's military power. The village can survive. Jiraiya interrupted sharply. The room immediately fell silent. Because for the first time, the Toad Sage sounded genuinely angry. You know what won't survive. His eyes hardened. Naruto facing Akatsuki without proper preparation. Nobody answered. Because nobody could. Jiraiya pointed toward me. He's already stronger than most Jonins. Then toward Tsunade. Imagine what he'll become after 3 years. The debate continued for hours. Literally hours. The elders argued. Tsunade argued. Jiraiya argued louder. Honestly, it was like watching political warfare. Eventually even Tsunade got tired. Enough. The room fell silent. The 5th Hokage stood up. Then looked directly at the elders. We don't have a choice. Silence. The Akatsuki are coming eventually. Another silence. And when they do, I want Naruto as prepared as possible. That ended it. Not immediately. The elders still complained. Danzo wanted me en route. Naturally. But eventually, permission was granted. Reluctantly. Very reluctantly. And Danzo was outvoted. Because no one in their right mind will give the village Jinchuriki to that mad dog. Honestly, they looked like they had swallowed lemons. The moment the meeting ended, Jiraiya transformed into a hurricane. The old man practically kicked open my apartment door. Pack. I blinked. What? Pack. Why? We leave tomorrow. I stared. Then at the massive backpack he had already brought. Then at his expression. Then back at the backpack. You planned this. I absolutely planned this. Then I smirked, and showed him my arm storage seal. Too bad. I have everything important already sealed in my storage seal. Anyway, thank you for your effort, pervy sage. Jiraiya fell dramatically. Then came the farewells. Iruka, Konohamaru. Team 7. Well, half of Team 7. Sakura punched me after learning I was leaving. Honestly, most emotional goodbye she'd ever given me. Hinata was quieter. Much quieter. The conversation lasted only a few minutes. But somehow felt longer. More important, neither of us really knew what to say. 3 years was a long time. Especially at our age. Eventually she simply smiled softly. And wished me luck. Moments later. At the village gates. I stood at the gate completely empty-handed. Beside me Jiraiya looked unusually excited. Which honestly worried me more. Then suddenly he grabbed my shoulder. Let's go. I blinked. That's it. What? No dramatic speech. No emotional moment. No wise mentor advice. Jiraiya thought about it. Then grinned. Try not to die. Honestly. Peak mentorship. Then before the elders could magically change their minds. The old man practically dragged me away. Fast. Very fast. I barely had time to wave goodbye to everyone. The village slowly disappeared behind us. The gates grew smaller. The Hokage monument faded into the distance. And for a moment, I looked back. 3 years. When I returned, everything would be different. Akatsuki would move. Sasuke would return stronger. The world would start changing again. And me, I intended to be ready. And according to Jiraiya I was ready to become a sage. So we run forward. Toward Mount Myoboku. Toward my sage training. And toward the future. For which, I myself was quite excited for. And just like that, my journey officially began. That's all for today. But before we end this video. Question time. Which Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan special ability was Koto Amatsukami? The first 5 to answer correctly will get a shoutout in my next video. But be quick, you only have 2 days to answer. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing what if stories in the future. Until next time, see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, farewell, and sayonara.